Welcome to this week's episode of the CPG View, the number one CPG information source for global omnichannel leaders. Molly, thank you so much for joining this week's episode of the CPG View. You and I were talking earlier, and we've been in the same probably circles for probably the last few years. And I think I tried to get you at one of these conferences as you were coming off the stage and I was going on one. But nonetheless, I'm glad we're able to finally connect now. Before we get started, I'm super excited to dive in. Would you mind introducing yourself and the company you're with?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, John. This is quite a treat, so thank you. I'm Molly Hjelm. I lead our sales team here for the Dollar General Media Network, also known as DGMN. And I can share a little bit about Dollar General as well, if that's helpful. That's usually how I start.
Would love it.
We're a growth retailer and a growth channel. We're the nation's largest retailer by store count with almost 21,000 stores at the end of this fiscal year. We have a 48 state range, and we grow every year by opening new stores. And so this year was no exception. We opened 730 new stores in the US this year, and we have just announced our plans to open another more than 500 stores next year. So this is a fun place to be in retail media. It's also just an interesting retailer to be part of with that kind of growth as its backbone.
You know, and I think the other thing too, to your point, everywhere I seem to go, there definitely seems to be a Dollar General.
That's
And
right.
I totally can relate to that. I did not know that store count, but that doesn't surprise me, over 20,000 stores. And there's been a couple things in the news before we get into some of our Q&A here. I know the delivery launch was recently announced. Is that correct?
Right. So in our Q3 earnings report, our CEO did talk about the pilot that we have going right now in stores to launch delivery to our customer base and our plans to rapidly scale that in the years ahead. And so as a media network, that's something we're particularly excited about, is just this opportunity to continue to serve our customers' needs through more modalities and to deliver that product directly to their door.
Love it. Love it. Well, hey, we'll keep talking Dollar General for sure, but we'll get into some of our questions here, and then I would love to go deeper on a couple of these points if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Molly, would love a little color, and this is I ask you this as a parent of our daughter is a now she will almost be a junior in college. And she talks to us and she says, I don't know what I want to do. So this question is almost in the spirit of that. When you and I were in college, I guess, can you walk us a little bit through your journey and maybe share any pivotal one or two moments that led you to the prestigious role that you're in now at the Dollar General Media Network?
Yeah, I love this question. I love this question, and I love the context that you shared it in, because I went to college thinking that I would go to med school afterwards, and very quickly found out that actually I was being called to do something a little bit different. But I was a marketing major and had a lot of opportunity to hear curriculum around market research and kind of advertising at the time that felt a little bit like Mad Men type advertising. How do you pitch the right message to the customer? And really, there was a presentation that was done in one of my classes by dunnhumby at the time, which was Kroger's loyalty card data analytics firm. And I was so drawn to their proposition, which was they had data on their customers that allowed them to be able to meet their needs proactively without having to ask them what they wanted. And as a customer and as a marketer, that really felt to me, that data-driven proposition really resonated with me. And so I didn't know that there was a career path to be found there before I heard them share it. And so I, moved sight unseen to Cincinnati to pursue a job there. And having data at the backbone of what that company did really lent itself to all these different opportunities to consult with CPGs and eventually to be able to not only understand what customers want, but to be able to message digitally to them in order to deliver them value or proactively deliver them and messaging about innovation that they will be interested in. And so that ability to connect the dots there with data at the core is what initially drew me and excited me and what continues to motivate me in this portion of the industry. So I would tell her, expose yourself to what's out there, keep an open mind, and when something resonates with you, trust your gut on it and go for it.
I love that the point you made. So I started my career early in sales and marketing types of roles, and as you could imagine, to your point, you mentioned like the Mad Men type of example. I think people have in their head what a certain career path looks like from like perceptions from afar until they actually get into it. And I think the point you made with regards to did not realize there was a career path out there that allows you to do the types of work that you're passionate about. So I would say also too, for anyone that's early in their career, we have a pretty large cohort of younger individuals that are still in college that are affiliated with this podcast. And I would just say, feel free. I can't tell you that she will reply, but make sure you ping Molly or check her out on LinkedIn. She's definitely one to follow. But no, I love that. And you've mentioned a couple times, I've been in, I think I've heard you speak at a couple of events, and you've talked about the energy you get from being around really smart people and forming partnerships. I can imagine that plays pretty well into your current role. Do you have an example or two of, the types of collaboration that inspired or energized you recently?
Yeah, definitely. I would look at just the evolution of DGMN's partnership with the trade desk for self-service as an area that fits both of those buckets, working with brilliant people and kind of problem solving on the forefront of our industry. The trade desk has given us the ability really to push our audiences into their ecosystem and enable the advertisers then to be able to include our audiences in their national activations.
Mm.
And this was new to our business as of a couple years ago. We're now a couple years into this partnership, but at the beginning of this year, the trade desk approached us to share that about half of our audience is net new to and not reached by their largest demographic target in the trade desk, which is 25 to 54-year-olds. There are billions of profiles, billions of IDs in there. And the reason for that is that DG, as a retailer, serves primarily rural areas. So we're reaching a very hard to reach customer, typically through programmatic media. And so having that data point to anchor on, having that insight to anchor on, helped us really understand what our value is in offering our audiences. It is not just the value that most purchase-based data is, which is that transparency that you're reaching that specific buying audience. It's not just the ability to close the loop to sales, but for us, it's truly providing an incremental audience above and beyond what national marketers can reach today. And so that has been really transformative in how we've structured partnerships with our CPG partners. And then just this year, we've started, non-endemic has really started to take off for DGMN, those non-endemics being those that don't sell through DG. And so we've got a QSR restaurant and we've got, insurance companies that are really turning to us to be able to help us reach a customer that they can't reach any other way.
It's super interesting. I think about that, and I read this not too long ago, but I believe DGMN expanded the portfolio to owned and operated, similar to the point you just mentioned with regards to in-store media, and you've been rolling out several different other types of initiatives. I sit and I think about this. So I'm a bit of a nerd. I read a lot. I have like, I don't say weird hobbies, but like I really like to help people. And if probably when I retire from a day job, I probably would be a professor. I just like to help. I really like to help other people. So we formed this podcast honestly to help others to shine light on individuals like yourself, but also and just as important to make sure people could see people like you and could connect with people like you and whether they're earlier in their career or later in their career. So we did that. We also formed the Retail E-commerce Club, which is, an executive group focused on individuals educating, encouraging, and empowering each other to be really their best selves as a leader. And when I think about this, we recently had a club meeting, and we one of the executives, big time executive, I won't mention their name of their company, but they said they recently had partnerships meeting with one of their retailers, and they said they were going to print T-shirts that said no data, no dollars. And I just thought that is like the best idea ever. And I love the point unsolicited, because I didn't tell you I was going to mention this, is I love the fact that you all are so data rich with attribution and clarity and transparency. And I could see how that partnership with the trade desk was a big hit.
Truly. I love that. Maybe I need that t-shirt from them too, because it's true. In this ecosystem, what we're doing is we're creating, long-term partnerships around mutually defined objectives and success criteria. And your ability as a retail media network to prove out either the considerable incrementality of your audiences, which is a core point of difference for us, and or the performance that you're driving as far as incremental sales, visits, and units. We know that's tantamount to helping our stakeholders be able to unlock additional incremental investment and to prove out that we are a good investment for those dollars. So I fully agree with that. And we've got the data here.
No, I love that. And I can see how partnering with someone like you all, really, because you put yourself on the other side of the coin as someone on the brand side, right? I spent almost 20 years. I spent 15 years at a large CPG, and then I spent 5 years in private equity. But in both of those cases, I never was on the retailer side. But when you're on the brand side, you're building plans and in many times presenting to a CEO and a CFO and perhaps a board, but let's just say the CEO and CFO for this argument or this example. And you need to be able to show clarity of data, incrementality, attribution that's very clear. And it really, I could see how you all's view on the market and the capabilities and systems that you all have, in addition to the scale. Again, I was not aware that it was over 20,000 stores. Seems like it could be a very, very interesting path for value creation and capture.
Yeah. Well, and to build on this, I think even with that data, even with the performance to back it up, even with the new to brand buyers that we're able to show in our wrap reporting, even with the proof of the incrementality with partnerships like the trade desk, I think there still is sometimes a gap in understanding between kind of CPG sales teams and the sales and units that they are driving and kind of the marketing speak that's still happening. And so I think our launch, DGMN's launch of an in-store media network this fall and our planned expansion of that, we started with in-store audio, which you just mentioned, is a great way to meet in the middle, because every sales lead trusts that in-store is going to intercept the customer at that point of conversion and have the ability to influence the decision. And so bringing media into the store feels like a great way to be able to bring both the marketers and the sales teams together around common KPIs and just build that understanding. So we're in about 3,000 stores now, and we'll scale to over 5,000 stores for our audio network next year. And we're really excited to prove that out.
Love that. I'll make sure I remind my daughter that next time we have a cabin we'll go to for a holiday time frames, and next time we're there, I know that's the store we actually go to. So I'm going to tell her, I'm going to send her the link to this podcast and say, here's your career advice. Call Molly. All right, hey, I wanted to ask you, from a go-to-market perspective, you've been at this for several years now in your career. Go-to-market strategies is a key focus for folks like us, and I would say us being those individuals that are trying to create value for the companies that they support. Is there a recent strategy that maybe you've developed or been proud of that would be helpful to share?
Yeah. This fall has been a record-breaking fall for the media network in that we have launched more than 8 new products to the market just in the back half of the year alone. And one of my favorites in that mix outside of the in-store audio network was born out of an ask from a brand director coming to us and saying, this real estate that you have on your site and on your app, how can I feature my brand more? How can I have more of a mix of kind of branded content on here that is also balanced with the merchant priorities and the offers that we're promoting on our site and our app? And so I had the opportunity in response to that question, and he was asking that question because he wanted to drive, a significant amount of additional awareness and sales among our specific rural customer, which he knew was super important for his category. And so I loved that challenge of that's not something that we have today, but let's see what we can do to go back and meet that ask and help you make your year. And so we did that. We rolled out what we call our premium homepage takeovers and an app pop-up that you go to the app for DG and you have this app experience where a video plays and then you can go into the app. And it was hugely successful as far as the results it delivered for that organization. It hit the KPIs that we had set out for. We were able to launch it in less than a month, which is really,
Wow.
incredibly impressive and kind of showcases the speed of DG. And it solved a real problem. And so my favorite work streams, my favorite products are those that are born out of an ask and a need and a pain point that we can help solve together. And no, there's nowhere like DGMN to be able to kind of move nimbly and quickly to be able to launch some of those things. So now that's an established product in our portfolio as we head into 2025 that is really resonating with our advertisers.
I love that. I recently read, I was reading a book and they were talking about this term stagility. And I'm not sure if it's a real word,
Like
but
that and digital, like are
yeah, yeah,
we?
yeah. So let's just say, yeah. But really, it was talking about thinking about this balance between a stable core and agility. And it likened it to a smartphone, like an operating system is like the stable core. And in this example, I'm going to say like the 20,000 plus stores that make up the organization you represent. Well, then you have this think about the apps as the agility part. You and I as consumers, we can delete apps we don't use and we can add more. And if you have young kids, like we also have, they add a ton of apps. But that point, I never would have guessed if you would have told me that you could have launched as an organization you all size to launch something in I mean, under a year, honestly. I mean, in most cases, organizations we've been a part of, they're multi-billion dollar type of organizations, and it just takes forever. That's really promising and surprising in a really neat way to see that you all are innovating with that type of nimbleness to deliver value and partnership to the brands that you support. And I could see how if I was on the other side of that coin or anyone else listening at one of these large CPG types of brands, that is really something where you lean in and you want to have and you want to engage and grow the partnership because it's not tactical because you and I'm sure in our career have been a part of some of these, they're tactical kind of trading relationships, but there's a fundamental difference when it's a strategic, coherent, aligned partnership. That's how do we grow over the next 3 to 5 years together? How do we grow the pie versus how do we trade dollars for the sake of trading dollars, which so
Right.
I wanted to
How do we build something incredible together? That is what really energizes me. And it was also, in addition to exemplifying the speed of DGMN, it also fit perfectly in with what we see to be our next frontier here in 2025, which is as we launch our ecom business, we're really focused on how do we help our advertiser community win on site and on our app. We've got an incredible amount of monthly site visitors, as you can imagine, with 20,000 stores and with 90 million reachable customers digitally. So we've got the site traffic and we've got the app users to really have a meaningful cohort to engage. And we know that our customers are on our site and on our app right before they come into the store, some of them within an hour of coming into the store. And so really doubling down and helping make sure that that is both a user-friendly experience for our customer and an inviting place for advertisers has been a fun vision to lean into with our partners as we shape that out.
I love that. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but just wanted to double click on you all really are driving innovation in retail media. And as this is evolving, we've talked about, I think you and I probably read some of the same publications and follow similar types of communities of folks, but talking about retail media being the third wave and, just being such a transformative component of people like us in this stage in our career. Like this is going to be a point in 50 years where people look back and they talk about, I remember when social media, when that evolution occurred. Retail media, in my opinion, is very, very similar. So, with that being said, is there one or two things that excite you the most about the future of your team and the work they're doing and opportunities for brands that you partner with?
So for us, it really is this next sprint for us, this next frontier for us to figure out is really actually what has been the domain of other retail media entities for a long time, which is e-com. How do we engage our customer in the right way through e-com? How do we help make that advertising experience wonderful for our advertisers as well? And the good thing about that is that it's proven. We know it works. We know that that is an area that our advertisers will want to invest in order to intercept our customer. And so from that sense, it's a tried and true sector of the industry that is all new to us that we're excited to lean into. And then the in-store advertising component, as you think about the almost 21,000 stores that we have now, the store for us, the brick and mortar store, which is where the primarily transactions are happening today, for us, the ability to bring more influencer channels that influence our customer in that forum could be really incredible at that scale. And so I think those two things are things that really excite me as in the path ahead. And I know come first half of next year, the rate at which we're rolling out new innovation and the way that we're kind of bringing our data to new partnerships, like we'll have so much more to talk about in 3 months time, just given the speed of our network. So the pace of the industry continues to excite me too.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time and make sure we end on time. So we'll maybe end with a more lighthearted or fun question here. What advice would you give to someone earlier in their career, given the position you have today and the role you play in such an exciting organization? Would love just a little color from you in the last few minutes we have.
Oh, sure. This dovetails nicely. I had the opportunity to guest speak at a class for Xavier last year, and I'll give you this similar advice that I gave that group. The first is, what I found in my career is that the partnerships that you make, the people that you work with, even very early in your career, are, if you stay in the same industry, are the folks that you're going to work with for decades. And the smart people that you worked with at entry level are going to become the leaders and the decision makers in your industry in the future. And so always do the right thing, build for the long-term partnership. The people are what's going to make your job. So don't let the relationship be at the center of the work that you're doing, and build paths to mutual success. And then the other is, in a fast-paced industry like this that's changing all the time, you are going to feel at times like you're drowning, and you're going to feel at times like you're surfing. And just when you feel like you've mastered the surfboard, you're going to fall off, and there's going to be new things that come your way. And so just knowing that coming in, that it's totally natural to feel that way as you're innovating and problem solving in an industry that's, at the forefront of media right now. I think that was the best advice that I had heard early in my career.
I love that. The second point specifically really hits home. In either case, I would take away from that, enjoy the water, because you're going to be in it,
Yes.
right? Yeah, enjoy the water. Well, Molly, this has been fantastic. I've actually learned a great deal, and I'm going to have something to send to my daughter as well as a ton of the other people that I'm sure will find tremendous value in hearing you and cheering. We're cheering you at the CPG View from the sideline, and we want a big supporter of you, what you're doing, as well as what you're doing with DGMN, and excited what the future holds. So with that being said, in our last minute here, 30 seconds, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
So I think we've covered it. Thank you so much for the time. And you're right, they can reach out to me directly, whether they're students exploring their next career path or advertisers that want to partner. More than happy to connect on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the CPG View, the #1 CPG information source for global omni-channel leaders.